done that plenty of times. So, so that works out okay. As far as the actually doing the job here, I've got all the technology I need. I try to do everything electronically if I can. And if there is any print material, then I'll scan it and read it. That sort of thing. We have a self-voicing OCR package called OpenBook, and there's also one called Kurzweil. So that in the event that there is a something to read in print, then I can just put it on the scanner and read it that way. And it's going to do essentially the same thing that JAWS does. It's going to speak the printed material aloud, scan it, recognize it, and convert it to text. Bring it in, read it.
How important and useful is Braille these days? Are these technologies available?
I think Braille is very, very important. I use Braille all the time for taking notes. I have a note-taking device here called Braille Myth that I use for writing notes, creating documents, leisure reading, all kinds of things. I keep my contact list in here and my planner, all in this device. And as you can see this here, it has a refreshable Braille display that as I move about, you can see the Braille here. It also has speech.
Speech on. Scientific calculator. Book reader. Navigation. Media center. Internet.
It's got the synthetic speech, so that if I wanted to use speech in conjunction with Braille, I could do that.
What, did it say internet?
Yes, it did.
What does that mean?
It means there's a web browser in here.
In there, in that little box that you've got?
Yeah, sure is. Yeah, so I could get online either wirelessly or through a modem or an Ethernet connection and look at web pages. Yeah, and it'll present them to me in Braille, and I can scroll through them and interact with them as I need to.
Are there important technological developments on their way, or?
Oh yeah, the stuff's changing all the time. Getting back to Braille for a second, if you don't mind.
Please.
Braille, I think, is when I was a young boy, learning Braille was compulsory. Any blind student had to learn Braille. No ifs, ands, or buts. Back then, though, the educational system was such that they would devote money and resources to making that happen. There would be people there on staff who were qualified to teach Braille and show people how to type and do all those kinds of things. Nowadays, with as the technology has evolved and there's been more text-to-speech and that sort of thing, talking computers and taped books and books on CD and all that kind of stuff, there's been much less emphasis on Braille. And where you used to find dedicated staff who would be on hand 5 days a week, pretty much most of the day, or if not all day, in these resource programs, now you have itinerant instructors who may show up at a school maybe once or maybe twice a week for an hour or two a day, and that's that. So that's not really conducive to providing good Braille instruction. And the result of that is that I think last I heard maybe 10% of the population, 10% of the blind population reads Braille. And that's a pretty darn dismal statistic if you ask me. What that tells me is that the remainder of those people are relying specifically on speech and not on actually seeing the written word, figuratively speaking, and that to me is tantamount to illiteracy, and I find that totally unacceptable. So once you push my hot button and start talking about Braille, I'll tell you about stuff like that, and I think it's really high time that situation changes. And I think, one way for that to happen is really to talk to educators and talk to legislators even, and promote a variety of initiatives and so on, to make sure that Braille is emphasized again, because that's important. It really is.
But if a blind person wanted to learn Braille up there, I mean, he could acquire that skill if he really wanted it, couldn't he, even without extra government?
Yeah, I think, but, it's the numbers of people who are qualified to teach it are fewer than probably there used to be. So making that happen is a bit more difficult. But certainly, oh yeah, there are ways you can do that, either through individualized instruction or through self-study, independent study courses like I think Hadley School offers one, and there may be others out there. So certainly one could learn Braille if one wanted to.
Do you feel like America's a friendly society for blind people, an indifferent society, or a cruel society?
Well, I would say America is a friendly society as a whole. I think it still has a lot to learn about people with disabilities, though, and so I won't go so far as to say that it's unfriendly, because I think it's a mixed bag. I think there are places that you go where people are more aware, and places that you go where the misconceptions are more prevalent, and so yeah, it's a mixed bag.
Now, I just checked my BlackBerry, so I got a buzz saying there were emails coming in. Were you able to detect that I was checking my BlackBerry? I'm just curious how much you're able to detect it.
Did it make some sort of noise? If it did, I didn't hear it.
No, I just...
Well, if it didn't make some sort of noise, there's no way I would have known.
Right.
Now, on the other hand,
oh, you've got a cell phone.
I've got an old Nokia with a screen reader called Talks, and if I set my phone up so that it beeps when a message comes in, then I'll certainly know about it. This is the Talks screen reader for the Nokia phone, and as I go through the various menus, it's going to do. It's going to tell me the menu icons and so on and so forth. So I can go into my contacts, for example. So it'll tell me the names of the contacts, and then I can select from them much as anybody else. And if I want to, for example, if I wanted to bring up a number and look at it and go, what is that number? So it recited the number, and it's going to do all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of just a short little demo of what that thing will do.
I was struck when I was talking to you and I asked you about if America is a friendly or indifferent society. I was struck how when you went to think, your eyes went up and to the left, just like I would do. Like when we think or when we have to access certain information, like our eyes roll either to the up to the left or to recall emotions or thoughts and feelings. And yours do the exact same thing as mine do.
Well, that's good to know.
I mean,
they tend to roll about and a lot anyhow, because I don't have a whole lot of muscle control. But that's good to know.
Yeah, I was just struck. Anything that I should ask you that I haven't asked you?
Well, offhand, I don't know what that would be.
Okay, well, I may follow up with email if I